This is the video demonstration for the caloric expenditure assignment. You are watching this video because you clicked on this link right here. I have the text instructions in a Word document right here. Let's begin by opening the worksheet. When you open the worksheet, you will see that this is a 2-day assignment. You're going to calculate your calories for 2 different days. So if you give me a second to size this up, let's begin. I am going to use an example weight, a very small weight of 100 pounds. And the reason I'm doing that is I want you guys to do this work independently and not just be able to copy. Very few 100 pounders out there. So what we are going to do is we're going to basically count our calories in 4 general categories. You have your basal calories. Basal calories. Your basal caloric rate is basically your resting caloric expenditure. That's why we're going to use your minutes of sleep. From there, we're going to create all of your moderate activity. Your moderate activity is basically anything equal to a brisk walk. From there, we're going to calculate your vigorous activity. Your vigorous activity is anything more than a brisk walk, and then we will basically calculate all of your resting and light activity. This is basically anything where you're standing, maybe light walking, sitting. We're going to put that all in one general category. Okay, so let's start with the process. Let's start with the amount of minutes slept, and let's pretend that we slept for 8 hours. 60 minutes an hour for 8 hours is 480 minutes. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the multiplying factor of 0.076, and you are going to multiply that by your body weight, multiply that by your minutes slept, and that is going to tell you roughly how many calories you burned while sleeping. Now, what if you were 150 pounds? That number's bigger. What if you're 170 pounds? That number's bigger. What if you are 225 pounds? That number's bigger. So the first thing you're going to learn from this assignment is your body weight is one of the primary factors in determining how many calories you burn. Now, number 2, let's go to our moderate activity. Moderate activity is basically anything equal to a brisk walk. So if you're just hanging around or pacing around, most of that is probably not brisk walking. On average, the majority of us are probably not going to go more than 30 minutes a day of moderate activity unless we do it on purpose. If you decide to go to the gym and walk the treadmill, maybe you take the dog for a walk, or if you go with some of the light activities that are in chapter 3, like yard work, washing your car, or different type raking your leaves, these type of things, some of this stuff can be considered moderate activity. Most of your light walking around, if it's not for an extended period of time, is not moderate activity. So one more time, let's take the multiplying factor of 0.036, multiply that by our body weight, multiply that by our amount of minutes doing moderate activity, and again, you'll see a smaller number. If you weigh 250 pounds, you're going to burn a lot more calories than you do if you're 100 pounds. The next category is going to be vigorous activity, and most of us are not going to do more than about 15 to 30 minutes of vigorous activity per day. Some might, depending upon your overall health abilities, but vigorous activity is anything that we do that is much more than a brisk walk, definitely into a run category. Some of the examples I get, if you're doing the treadmill at a running pace, you can probably put that in vigorous activity. What if you went to the weight room for an hour? Weight training is definitely vigorous activity. However, if you're in the weight room for an hour, you're probably not exercising for the hour. You probably have 2 to 3 to 4 minute breaks in between sets. That is not vigorous activity. So let's say, for example, you did a set and each set lasted about 30 seconds. If you did 10 sets, that's 300 seconds. That is only 5 minutes of vigorous activity. What if you played basketball for an hour? Well, how often were you running during your basketball game that you played for an hour? Again, there's going to be some guesstimation, but I would say a good number is probably about 15 minutes of high running, probably about 25 minutes maybe of walking or jogging, and that leaves about 20 minutes of standing around. Just because you played basketball for an hour, just because you were in the gym for an hour, does not mean that you were actually vigorous for the hour. Up to the moderate example, I get people tell me that they went shopping for 3 hours. That is definitely possible. People do a lot of shopping. But were you walking at a brisk pace, 3.5 to 4 miles per hour, example, for an hour? Okay. In that 3 hours, you might have put in 45 minutes of walking and 2 hours and 15 minutes of standing. This is what we have to kind of guesstimate for this assignment. So one more time, take your multiplying factor of 0.053, multiply it by your body weight, multiply it by your number of minutes. Now, the rest of our day is inactive. Okay. This is sitting, this is standing, this is light walking, not stuff that we have to count all the way through. So, what we're going to do is simply put our sleeping minutes in, our moderate minutes in, and our vigorous minutes in these categories, and we are going to subtract them from 1,440. 1,440 is the amount of minutes there are in one day. Multiply 24 times 60 and you'll get 1440. So if we take 1440 and we subtract our sleeping, subtract our moderate, and subtract our vigorous, then we will get our non-active minutes. This is the rest of our day. Whether you do a lot of standing or sitting is not really a big deal. We're going to take the multiplying factor of 0.011. We are going to multiply it by our body weight, multiply that by the number of minutes, and that's going to give us our calories throughout the day. Now, what we can do here is simply take our answer from box 1, our sleeping minutes, our sleeping calories, our answer from box 2, which is our moderate calories, our answer from box 3, which is our vigorous calories, and our answer from box 5, which is our non-active calories. From there, we just want to add all of those together, and we're going to get a good guesstimation of your calories. Now, these numbers are very light because I used a 100-pound person. If I change this to 250 pounds, you will see that the numbers will all change and the amount of calories will go up dramatically. Okay, so we want to use our body weight, and I'm trying to use some extremes here, so most of you have to do your own calculations. Does this mean that every 100 pounder is the same? No. If you read chapter 2 and chapter 3, you will learn that your metabolism is based on a lot of different things. Obviously, how much you exercise, how you eat, stress levels, hormones, how much muscle mass you have. So, age, all of these different factors will make it different for everybody. But we're saying that a 100-pound person will burn roughly 1558, give or take a few calories. Everyone's a little different. A male versus a female, young versus old, etc. Now you're going to do this for 2 different days and try to do different days. I'm very skeptical of students who put the exact same times in for each days. Try to calculate it. Down below, you must document what you think is moderate or vigorous activity. So, for example, when you tell me that you went shopping for 2 hours, you're telling me that this was 2 hours of walking while you were shopping. That meant you probably shopped a total of 6 to 8 hours, because most of the time when we're shopping, we're sitting around. If you shopped for 2 hours, you might have walked for 40 minutes. Okay. If you played basketball for an hour, you might have walked 35 minutes and you might have ran for 15 minutes. And these totals are what you guys are going to give me and put up in these categories above. When you're done, make sure you save the document accordingly with your first name, last name, caloric expenditure, and turn it into the Dropbox.